welcome on behalf of the Innovation Incubation Center. I want to welcome you here today. I'm very happy to see you here. And it's a special evening because we are kickstarting the 8th season of the Founder and Investor Talks. But before we dive into the topic from today, I just wanted to ask, how many of you is familiar with what i²c does here at TU Wien? Please raise your hands. Oh, quite a lot of people. And how many of you have attended a Founder and Investor Talk before? Okay, quite a lot of people. But just to give you an overview, under the motto Technology for People, at i²c we, together with the research and transfer support of the TU Wien, we aim to support startups and founded by students and researchers coming from our university throughout the whole value chain, so from the ideation stage to the market implementation. And today we have a special guest, and I'm actually looking forward for his talk because Mr. Wolfgang Platz actually started in 2008 when he founded his company. But at that stage, his company was a consultancy firm, and a cornerstone for his success is the development of the first product. And what I'm saying that is because he actually brought the startup to a stage that the level is extraordinary. He's considered the first unicorn of Austria. And when I'm saying the first unicorn of Austria, that means that the company has a valuation of minimum $1 billion. And I would just give the floor to him and share his 3 secrets to succeed in your startup. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the intro, and also welcome from my side. Pleasure for me to have the opportunity to talk to young entrepreneurs here. At least that's, I assume, what you're here for, right? So what I would like to share with you is some insight on the bumpy ride that we have been going for. You're gonna hear nothing but the blunt truth from me, which is not always amusing. And I hope you're still inspired when you leave this room. Okay, for a brief overview about me as a person. I studied technical physics on the Technische Universität in Vienna. That is several years ago. Actually, I think it was in '87 when I started. And then I did some additional studies on law and economy. And having that said, that was a perfect entrance into consulting. From there, I started with this directly. And everything I learned in technical university was very, very valuable. Not directly, I've never been in physics anymore, but indirectly, with all the knowledge of abstraction and the knowledge of expressing what you think in that regard, was very useful. So I think you have taken a good decision here. Okay, brief overview on Tricentis. You see a founding date here, 2007. That's not fully true. As you pointed out already, we started as a services company earlier, but this is the time when we switched into a product company, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more. Today we are an international company. We're headquartered in Vienna. This is where we come from. This is where I founded the company. But today we are present in most of Europe, of course in the DACH region, the German-speaking region, in Benelux. UK is a very interesting market. Then here we have, of course, the United States, and we do have Asia. Just to give you an overview, do you have an idea about the relevance of these markets in IT? So what do you think, how much of the world revenue is generated here in the United States? Any idea? 60%? That's a bit too much. But it's actually more than half. It's 52%, so it was not a bad guess. 52% is generated here. This is pretty stunning, right? All the rest is not as important, not half as important. So let's see here we have a headquarter in the Silicon Valley for a simple reason, because if you're not headquartered in the Silicon Valley, you're not associated with tech and innovation. So you have to do that, okay? At a certain point of time. We are also present here. This is New York. New York is very, very special to the IT market. The biggest consumers of IT today is which industry? Huh? Finance, exactly. Banks, actually. Banks have 7% of their overall budget is IT. So if you want to make it on an enterprise level, you better make it with the banks. Banks, insurances, this is where the money is. And if you have a look now on this, 52% over here, 40% of these 52%, meaning 20% in total, for all of you calculating this quickly, is just this dot. This dot is 20% of the world revenue, okay? So you gotta be in New York, otherwise you're nowhere. Europe is completely splitted, except for one thing. There is one region in Europe which is outstanding and which accounts for 40% of overall Europe. Europe is about 30% of the world market and 40% are in one region. Any guesses? London, who said that? Awesome. London. Let's see how this changes now with the end of March. So, London for the finance industry. The Greater London area is awesome because actually when it comes to business, it's like a circle of 5 kilometers. Okay, it's Canary Wharf and London in a city, and when you walk there, you see the dollars hanging out of the windows. So if you want to be really successful in Europe, you got to be here, and you got to be here in the DACH region. Unfortunately, DACH is very, very splitted. Germany is very splitted. So you have to travel a lot when you want to be successful in DACH. We actually came from here, and then we made it into other geographies. We are present also in Sydney, in Australia. We are present here in Singapore. This is India, Pune. Actually, India. Is India a good market? What do you think? Very growing, very fast growing. So when we talk about market, we would need to have two perspectives. Is it a good market for selling IT? Nope. Is it a good market for using IT? Obviously, yes, right? A lot of users sit there, but you can't sell anything. They would just work with the software that they have been provided by some international company that does the work down there. For us, we do have a hub in Pune. Which is growing quickly with 75 people approximately. This is the #1 support for the delivery of what we do here. Vietnam is a new geography where we do provide IT development from. Yeah, and that's about it. We're not present in China yet. We're not present in Japan yet. Japan would be a very interesting market. However, you need to have locals there, otherwise you don't succeed. You need to speak Japanese, which we don't. Actually, you better speak English with an English accent here. They don't like to deal with the crowds. And that is they don't distinguish between German and Austrian, okay? You're a crowd. That's done. Good. So that's about where we are. We have all the shiny logos, the big shiny logos. I'm not gonna go through this. Trust me on this. And we are recognized here by a Gartner, by a Forrester, and an IDC. Everyone is familiar with these names, are you? Who's not familiar with that? Raise your hands. Thanks for being honest. Okay, so what is that? You're familiar with Standard & Poor's, Fitch and Moody's, aren't you? So what do these guys do? They do ratings, exactly. What is a rating service? They tell you whether somebody else is trustworthy, whether a bank is trustworthy or even a state is trustworthy, okay? The same thing is here for technology. These are the so-called analysts. Like, and funnily enough, the dynamics is very similar. Standard & Poor's, Moody's and Fitch, 3 ones. When you're rated AAA by all of them, you're cool, okay? You're trustworthy. The same thing is here with analysts. It's Gartner, Forrester and IDC. If they rate you a leader, you are really a leader. And that is actually what happened to us, which we are very proud about. The dominance is different. The dominance is a typical IT dominance. What do I mean by an IT dominance? When you are in a saturated market, you're going to see services being provided with almost equal market shares. So Standard & Poor's, Fitch and Moody's, they are about the same importance. In IT, it's completely different. In IT, whatever you do, the winner takes it all. Okay? It's not like commodity. If you're driving a car, that's commodity. What is the number one producer of cars? Huh? Volkswagen. Guys. Okay, Toyota is number 2. It was not that bad a guess. When you go Volkswagen, what is the market share of Volkswagen? Do you know the market share of Volkswagen? Huh? 13. 1-3. Okay? So that is commodity. When you now go into IT, the winner would have a market share beyond 50% or beyond 60%. Okay? That is what I mean by the winner takes it all. In IT, to be substantial, you have to be the leader. In a certain area, you need to be the leader. And of course, there are tricks out there. You can define the category in which you want to be the leader. Okay? But we're going to come to that in a second. Okay, so that's about us. We are here in software testing. That is what we do. We do software testing. We try to make that better. We do software test automation. And software testing, as you know, is pretty boring. You would agree? Who of you are developers? I've been a hardcore developer for 8 years. And the least thing I wanted to do was actually software testing. Okay? But yeah, at a certain point of time I fell into this. Okay, so let's keep going. The first number I want to share with you, that's not the first one, right? I shared a lot of numbers already. 7%. 7% is actually the number of startups that survived the first 3 years. I think you knew that already, didn't you? Okay, so 93% failure rate. And I say that not to discourage you, but to share with you some things that I think are very relevant to succeed. Okay, so the basic agenda I wanted to pick for this talk today is actually love. What's that got to do with IT? Huh? Not too much. You know why I picked love? The simple reason, whenever you read love, it has a positive emotion to almost everybody, right? So it's just a trick, okay? Just to keep you guys staying with me here and don't start with your cell phones. Okay, love. So, but love is relevant, okay? It comes here in several aspects. Love your customer more than your product. That is the first thing I want to talk to you about. Very, very important rule. Love your customer more than your product. That is very hard for product-centric people, like I am, okay? Love your staff even more. You're not gonna make this alone. No chance. And last but not least, with all the love for money, you gotta know where it comes from. And there's 2 sources for money, which is profits and trust, and I'm gonna talk about this further. And I also wanna share with you how we got to money, because you're gonna need money at a certain point of time. Otherwise, you're not gonna make it. So let's go into these things, okay, in some more detail. So when we started, actually, I'm first gonna tell you the truth, and then I'm gonna tell you how we sell it, okay? So the truth is, I never planned to do this. It just happened. At a certain project, in my career, there was actually i²c, you know that, right? This gentleman and I, we had some time working together. In i²c, there was a big project going on, and then all of a sudden it was about automating these things, and I started doing it. But unfortunately, all the software that was out there for automation was just crappy. It didn't work. So there was a huge demand for something better, and I started developing this, okay? So that is the truth, meaning it just happened. Now I'm gonna give you the official thing, okay? The official thing, what we go out with is, here is Apple. What did Apple? They wanted to democratize computers, okay? That sounds great, doesn't it? Democratize computers. Make them so simple that everybody can work with that stuff. Isn't that something, huh? Here comes Google. Democratize information. The big thing, bring information to everybody. Democratize information. Here we come with eBay, democratize commerce. And now comes Tricentis, democratize test automation. Sounds great, doesn't it? Okay? So what it is, what we talk about is we make meaning. We make meaning. Why do we do this? Because we actually want to comply with a very, very basic instinct that everybody has. But this instinct is not going to make you successful. The instinct this goes after is about the greatness of ideas. It tells you how great ideas are. The idea to democratize computers. I mean, really? Do you think that that's what they wanted? And the others? Okay. We all think about the ideas are the greatest thing in the world. And let me make it even more tangible. These are two companies out there, and they deal with cars. Do you have the names for me? This is Tesla, you're right? This is Tesla. Any idea about the other one? God damn it, now I'm impressed. It's Ford. So, yes, you made it. Fantastic. You're the first ones to make the Ford. So, who is the CEO of Tesla? Ha ha ha. Everybody knows that, huh? Who's the CEO of Ford? Who cares, huh? Who cares? James Hackett. This guy is, I don't know, 28 times as successful as this guy. Oh, no. When I say this is politically not correct, right? You don't like to hear that, huh? This is the cool dude, and this is the guy who makes money. Right? This is the idea, and this is the freaking execution. And what are you attracted more by? The idea or the execution? The idea. And what is going to make you successful? The idea or the execution? It's the execution. Nothing else. We all tend to overrate the importance of ideas. It is all about execution. Sorry to be so pragmatic. And give you some facts here, okay? In 1 year, this is from Nielsen actually, they counted this, there are 25,000 new products out there, 25,000. Out of them, most of them fail, 80% fail. Not because it's bad ideas, but it's because people have not focused on execution. And the mistakes they make, they actually happen very early in the game. They happen super early in the game, and we're going to talk about this in a bit. So ideas, you're going to view an idea as a commodity. Okay? I think a lot of people are not going to like to hear that because you have this great idea out there, right? And you've just not been taken up by the market. People did not understand the extent of genius you are. That's all bullshit, okay? It's all bullshit. It's all about execution. It's not about having better ideas. It is about executing better. So, and this guy, Linus Torvalds, yeah, you know that one, right? That is what he says about innovation. Leave me alone with that bullshit, okay? Execute. Execute. So, the way to address it, and this is something we have also implemented very successfully, is an innovation lab. It means you have a funnel of good ideas, and these ideas you try to disqualify as soon as possible, okay? Don't try to find reasons why the idea is good. Try to find reasons where you need to disqualify the idea. And when you disqualify it, you should go very, very strictly. First of all, strategically, does this make sense at all? Okay, let's assume you're green on that. And then here comes the tricky part, business validation. No idea ever should be implemented without a business case. And believe me, we made this wrong for a long time. It almost cost the company. But the painful learnings are the best learnings, okay? Business validation. If you don't have a business case, you must not invest. And try it out. Go to people. Talk about it. If you are not understood within the first 5 minutes, something's wrong with your idea. I can guarantee you, okay? It's wrong. It's not going to make it. And then, as soon as you're through the business validation, you should prototype it. Do some little thing to illustrate what this is about and let people critique it. And be open to critique and don't feel punished by critique. I remember when I was there with the first version of the product and I shared it with the people and I got this feedback, I was completely destroyed. Completely. Because I took it all personal. I mean, you invest so much energy in this, and then you're supposed to not take it personal. It's hard, but it's the only way to do it. And then you prototype it, and you have constant interaction with your customers, and then you release it. If you neglect that, it might be possible that you succeed. It might be possible. You can be lucky, right? You can be lucky. That happens in 1 of 10,000 times. But the probability is just so bad. The probability that you fail is incredibly high, okay? So go with an innovation funnel, go with an innovation lab. And when you do that, love your customer more than your product. So this is actually in 1999 when I started to develop this software test automation piece. I started it because the demand was there. The demand was there, and I was feeling like this guy, this is Sisyphus. I came up with test automation, and all the automation broke. So I had to rewrite it every once in a while, and that was so painful that I thought there is something better. It was lucky that the demand was obvious. And I was very lucky several steps again and again and again. Without that luck, I would not have succeeded. I could have done way better with this innovation thing at the very beginning. So, love your customers more than your product. Don't be too much in love with your product, and get the work done. That is the first thing. Get the work done. Execution. So in order to get your work done, it's not just about you. It's also about others, because you're not going to be able to make that alone. So you got to love your team also. And here is a saying that I wanted to share with you. This is very, very true. As a leader, you're going to be great, not because of you, but because of the others working for you. You got to empower them. And when I say empower, I mean it in 2 dimensions. One is you give them authority. You empower them to execute power from an authority perspective. But you also need to do that from a skill perspective, meaning you got to coach your people if you can do it. And if you cannot do it, you better get a coach. And if you are at the limit, you better get a coach and let others do things that you cannot do. The best, you're not going to find anything promoting you more than people who are better than you. Take that into consideration. Whenever you find somebody who's better than you, who's willing to join you, take him on instantly. Even if the risk is here that you're going to be overtaken. It's always going to pay off. Always. And don't try to stake your claim too easy. So this is about love with your team. There's a second dimension about love, which is a more monetarization-wise. So, and I want to share something about our own history here. In 2007, I actually switched this thing into a product company, then called Tricentis. And what I did, since I was the product guy and product and delivery, I had been with consulting, but never in sales, or let's say I had been a bit in sales, but not professional. I decided I need to have some professional sales in here. And I actually decided to share the company with somebody else. And that is something which is not very common in Austria, or at least it wasn't. I don't know, maybe times have changed here. This is 20 years ago. Because in Austria, we have this attitude, right? I have a company, I have nothing, but this is all my own, right? I have 0, but I don't have to split the 0. That's cool, I'm my own boss. Very valuable thing, huh? When I told my parents that I'm going to have somebody on board, a partner coming in, I would give shares to, they were completely destroyed. How can you? Right? How could you? If you don't own it, what's going to happen? So that is the thinking. I can only tell you that decisions, when it becomes tough, you got to be generous. You're not going to succeed without splitting at a certain point of time, without sharing at a certain point of time. It's not going to work. One of the most impressive businesswomen I've ever known, I've seen her fail because she didn't want to share. She was so brilliant, but she just couldn't manage to share. And now the company's gone. Nothing. Nothing. Just because she didn't want to share. So, you got to share. And VCs are never going to buy somebody who's just on his own. They want to have a team. Then they're willing to invest. So they want to have a solid core team, and they want to have a culture of sharing. Otherwise, they will not invest. They're not going to give you money. One of the most, when VCs invest, you know how they do it? They have a check mark of risks. a checklist of risks. There's 9 issues on that list, okay? And one of the most precious elements is the team. They're going to look at the team. How about the motivation? Do we feel any friction? Do we think they're going to stay on board? Do we think they're going to drive it? If the team is not here and motivated, they're gonna not do it. So they look out for a solid core team that is very relevant to them. And when you do this, I can only recommend provide a structure where you let everybody participate. Everybody. You don't have to give a lot to everybody, okay? But let them all feel part of the body and provide them with shares. So do have an employee participation program. And in order to be able to give a lot, you gotta have a high number, okay? 70, yeah, otherwise you're done very quickly, right? With 100%, 1% each, you're done very quickly. So you gotta have a 7 to 9 digit total number of virtual shares. You gotta create virtual shares. Are you familiar with that concept? Who's familiar with that concept? Okay, should I explain it? What it is? Okay, so let's say you have a GmbH. So the way this works is you have 100% what we call Stammkapital, right? So let's say this is 100%. This is representing the value of the company. What you now do is, when you want to have people participate, you cannot give everybody 1%, because at a certain point of time you want to be 500 people, and you as the founders would probably not be willing to give everything but except for 1%, right? So what you're going to do is you want to project that value, that is the real value, to a virtual number. And this virtual number represents the whole value, but you give it a completely different dimension. For instance, you give it 100 million shares. That is a lot. Okay? But you have contracts going that make people secure that this value is this, right? There is an additional contract that makes them aware that this is real money. It's not just paper money somewhere, okay? It's not bitcoins, it's real money. So this 100 mil, when you do this, as a psychology effect, you're able to give people a lot, right? Let's say you now give them 10,000. 10,000 is a nice number, huh? But 10,000 out of 100 mil, you can afford that, okay? So that's what I mean. You provide an employee participation program with a large number of virtual shares, and you provide virtual shares to these people, okay? So, and here now comes the bottleneck, the bad thing. When people now earn money on this, they have to pay full income tax. Are you aware with tax? Who is aware of taxes? Capital gains tax, income tax. What is capital gains tax? Who knows that? Okay, not too many. Good. We're gonna talk about it briefly. Let's say you make 1 million out of this, 1 million euros, and you're a real shareholder here. Then our republic is going to come and going to collect capital gains tax, Kapitalertragssteuer. They're going to have 27% that they want from this, okay? When you do income tax, it's not 27, it's more than 50%. It's 50% actually. So it makes a difference whether you need to pay income tax or capital gains tax. Unfortunately, from this, you will have to pay income tax. Why is that the case? Because the Austrian state has not understood what entrepreneurship is about, right? Unfortunately, there's still ways to go. The US people have got that. That is why the US is so much more dynamic in this regard. There's some changes now from a legal perspective in Germany going to enable that. But in Austria, you're still screwed as an entrepreneur, okay? So when you bring it up to the politics, yeah, we know it. Nothing happens, okay? Let's hope for the better in the future. Okay, so the two things, to just recap: love your team, meaning empower your team, provide them with the power in a double sense, authority and skill. Plus, make sure they are participating on the success. Then it's going to work. And be generous. If you are not generous, you're going to suffer. It pays off. Okay, next thing. Money comes from profits. So let's go back into our history a bit. In 2009, actually, we were named a cool vendor by Gartner. You remember Gartner? That is one of the analysts that I mentioned before, right? It was like Standard & Poor's now saying, hey, these are cool dudes. And what happens when you do this, all of a sudden the telephone rings. And investors want to invest. This is awesome, right? Because all of a sudden somebody wants to give you money so that you can succeed better. And this is also what happened to us. But what we did is, we didn't take the money. We thought to ourselves that this is too early. And I'm going to come to why we thought that. Instead, we had a market entrance into Asia-Pac and the UK. Asia-Pac worked out because we were lucky. We had two people from Europe who started the business in Asia-Pac. They had done an MBA down there, one from Austria, one from Switzerland. So it was really a lucky shot. They just ramped it up. UK was a failure because we went there as crowds, okay? And no chance. So we couldn't afford to start the business as a UK company. We had to start with us going to the UK, and that was a failure. From a cultural perspective, funnily enough, UK, although it's just 30 kilometers, right, from Dover to Calais, is further away than Asia-Pac. Asia-Pac is meaning Australia. Australia is in the middle from a cultural perspective between Europe and UK. But UK is far away, right? Brexit far. And then in 2011, what we also tried to do is we wanted to go into the US. And that was really bad. So, but we still thought, okay, hey, come on. We talked to our tax accountant and said, what do you think? Should we take this money? Does this investor go in? And he said, oh no, don't throw your money into the mouth of a shark. These are the worst. No money is more expensive than the money of an investor. And you know what? He is right. Nothing is as expensive. But see what happened. In 2007, we were like 1 million euros on license revenue, about that. And we were growing into 28. We were doubling. We were almost doubling to 29. Then we grow 43%, 38%. I mean, of course, it's always more difficult if the base is higher, right? Growing is difficult. Doubling, it's an exponential curve. We didn't manage to have an exponential curve, or not that aggressively exponential. But we were in good shape, 2011, and then something happened, 2012. We hit the glass ceiling. No growth. No growth. I mean, you could say now something happened here. What happened here? 28, 29. Yeah, financial crisis like Lehman Brothers and stuff. But it didn't hit us too much. It really kicked in here in 2011. You had some backlog on this financial crisis in our business. So in 2012, we did not grow any further. And what we were actually encountering is something like you hit the chasm. I don't know if you are familiar with this book, Crossing the Chasm. Who has ever has somebody read that? I can really recommend that. It's a very good book that talks about how you can grow a business. And what it talks about is that when you start with a business, you will be able to convince some innovators to take it on. Your great solution, right? But there is only 2.5% innovators on Earth, so you're not going to get to the full market. Then you want to go to the early adopters. And at a certain point of time, when you would like to go into the enterprises, the majorities, here is the money, okay? These are just some spleenies, some geeks. But here is where the money is. You don't get there. This is what's called the chasm. You need to do something. And in EMEA and Asia-Pac, we had hit this chasm. So we didn't grow there anymore. And then we thought, okay, we got to go to the US. But guess what? That was not working. It was not working because fundamentally we were culturally not aligned with the US. And the way you need to see it is when this is the objective distribution of what you do, right? Here with this Gauss curve, people would say, okay, the majority would say pretty good, and then some say it's awesome, and some say it's junk, okay? When you talk to an American represents himself, you're going to get this. Everybody's going to tell you it's awesome. Whatever they do, everything is always awesome. Okay? It's so super. And you got to transport that with conviction, which is hard for Europeans, okay? Well, we are so awesome. Well, if you're Eastern Europe, everything is garbage. We are more on that side, huh? Yeah, I do have a solution, you know, but yeah, we still need to work on it. And the Americans will say, oh, it's awesome, can do everything. So, and this cultural difference makes its way to very, 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 very simple messaging. What we are really good at is technology and industrialization. BMW. What is the tagline of BMW? Seen a BMW ad lately? The ultimate driving machine. Okay? Isn't that something? That's a cool slogan, right? The ultimate driving machine. Do you know what the tagline of Audi is? Yeah, what was that? Vorsprung durch Technik. And you know what? They use this tagline in the States. Vorsprung durch Technik. Okay? People in the States don't know any German, but they know what it means, Vorsprung durch Technik. It's true. And then it goes, tuk, 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 right? The heartbeat. Huh? That is the heartbeat of German thinkers. That is our heartbeat, okay? When we go over there and we do Vorsprung durch Technik in a bank, trying to sell a product, you know what's going to happen? That's what happened to us, okay? We lost money. We lost a lot of money. You got to sell differently. In the United States, you got to sell a vision. You got to paint the bright picture of the future. And you're going to guide them to this promised land. And you're the only one who can do it, okay? And when they hear that, they're going to believe. People love to believe in the States. That's why all these pastors and people are so successful. It's true. This is true, okay? So you make them believe in something, then they are with you. But Vorsprung durch Technik, it makes them believe of Audi, but nothing else. So you gotta have your message right. And it took us several years to get the message right. But meantime, we were losing money. And that is a bad thing. Because when you want to have an investor attracted, or when you want to get your business going, you got to be aware that there's just two sources for money. Two sources. One is profit. You make profits and you can finance yourself. And the other one is trust. Somebody believes that you're going to make it. And for trust, they need either one of profits. Okay, you have no profits, so right? So this doesn't work. And the other thing is growth. So back to, I shared with you what happened, right? We were flat in 2012. That's not a good position. It's not a good position for you to talk to an investor. So we didn't get a good deal. We had to take money on, but it was a shitty deal. We did it. We took some money on because one of those guys was calling us again, fortunately, and we were able to break through this glass ceiling with the money. But when you think about taking money on from an investor, I want to go through this with you very briefly, so through some thought process here, okay? Because every one of you who wants to drive business and wants to get growing, there will be a certain point of time when you ask yourself whether you're ready to take an investor. And what you need to be considering is, are you ready for growth? This is the most important thing. If you're not ready for growth, try to avoid it. If you have no other chance, what can you do, right? You can have security tokens and hope it's working. The probability that it's working is pretty low, by the way. Eh? Okay, let's see this example. Let's say today we have license bookings of 3 million. Okay, this is K euro, 3 mil. And we have a 5x in valuation. You're aware how this works, right? With multiples and stuff. Who is aware of valuation? How valuation works? Should I talk about this briefly? Are you interested in it? Yeah? Okay. Good. So, when an investor wants to find out how much you're worth, okay? What they're going to do is, they have two sources, okay? One is community. meaning you have a lot of users. That is one stream. The other stream is revenue. You have a lot of revenue. When you have revenue, what they would do is they would split the revenue in different categories and they would apply so-called multiples to find the valuation. They would use license revenue. There they would distinguish between perpetual and subscription. Are you familiar with that terms? Perpetual licenses and subscription? Subscription is you pay each and every year a certain amount. That is subscription. It's a rent. Okay? Perpetual is you pay once, then you own the software and you just pay maintenance. More attractive is subscription to people. So they are willing to have higher multiples on this. Okay? And then you would have services. If you provide services, they would also give you a multiple. So the multiples that are out there is like a 5, a 10, and a 1. Approximately that's what you can get. Okay? This is how people work when there is revenue. When you have a huge community and no revenue, this may also be interesting. There's been a very, very big deal lately where people pay just for community. Do you know which one? $7.7 billion US dollars. Git, exactly, GitHub. So Microsoft was able to pay $249 US dollars per user. Just for the good, hoping it's going to work. By the way, for Microsoft, it is going to work. It was a great deal. Okay, so there was no revenue by these guys, but just community. But this community, you got to have an open source project going. You got to do a lot of things right to really benefit from this. And you're certainly not going to get $250. Let me make you that clear. Okay, so what you can get is like $40 or so per user. So you got to have a lot of users to make money on this. Okay, this is the safer route. Good. So let's assume we have this. It's all perpetual for now. Make it easy. So multiples 5. You have a valuation of 15 mil. That's what the investor going to say. You have a valuation of 15 mil, and now let's say this is held all by the founders. Okay. And now we're thinking about having an investor coming in because we want to do something with our business. So what you got to take into consideration is how the future is going to change when you have an investor. Let's say you expect to grow 20% without an investor, okay? We're not taking an investor on, we grow 20%. So this is what happens. The license bookings are growing like this. The valuation multiple stays the same, so you get to 26 mil. Okay? Remember that. 20% growth, 26 mil. Now we're going to take an investor on, okay? What's going to happen? 26 mil, 20%. So the investor comes and wants 30%, minority investor. He's going to pump some money in, okay? So what is your minimum growth acceleration that you need to make this not just a business for the investor, but also for you? That is the calc. First of all, if you just grow 20%, you would not grow any faster. You cannot accelerate your growth. You're going to lose money because the investor is going to eat it up. Okay? The investor is going to put 4.5 mil in, that is now cash, but he puts it in the company. You're not going to get that money. And the investor is going to grow that to about 8 mil value that they have then. Okay? These guys earn 3.2 mil. You earned a lot, but you earned not enough compared to this. Okay? So meaning, if you cannot increase the growth substantially, you better not do it. Understood? Effectively, you lose money. When you grow your company faster by 40% because you got this infusion of 4.5 mil, then it makes sense. Because all of a sudden, you're not bound to 26, but you're with 29. Okay? Then you made money. Otherwise, it's just the investor making money. The investor is taking the full risk, on the other hand, right? It could be that you are completely fucked up and the 4.5 mil are gone. That's it. So that's the game. The money is extremely expensive, but who else is going to give you money? You think the banks are going to finance you? Have fun. No chance. Don't even think about it. Okay, so but you see what I want to get to. When you're ready to grow, the minute you're ready to grow, this is the time. Then you should have an investor coming on. Because it's going to be even accelerating that growth and you're going to make a lot of money. If you're not ready to grow, try to survive without. Only if you have no chance, then you have to, right? So the bad thing about us was, we had no other chance. We had to take the money. And so what you give when you go with an investor is, you give shares, okay? And usually when you provide these shares, these guys want a lot of stuff. They give you the money, but they want to also be present in your board of directors. So they want to have influence, and they want to have some commercial participation. Preferences, that's how you call this term, that give them special rights, that makes them more secure in a downside scenario where they are about to lose money, okay? So you're going to have a very, very detailed look at the smaller written things in these contracts. What they also promise you is, so this is what you give, right? Some preferred rights, risk mitigation, I mentioned that. What they promise you is money. That is one, that is most important. But in addition, usually they also promise you advice and access to a great network. So they're going to say, hey, we have so many portfolio companies, we can exactly tell you what's going on, we can give you so much useful advice, it's super invaluable. And they're going to tell you, hey, a network, we have a great network to excellent staff. We can get you the most powerful CFO and the most powerful CMO tomorrow. And we can get you to CIOs that are going to spend a lot of money with you. So the first one we had, it did not work out. They provide this, but no chance to get this, okay? So you better check them out. You better check them out if this is real. You talk to others who have got an investment from them, and you talk whether this is true. Because usually, I can just tell you, usually this here is not true. All right, so here we go. We have some money taken on by this first investor. This is the name of the guys, Viewpoint Capital, 1212. And depends on what it is. Of course. Of course it's in the contract. So, how can you measure network? How can you measure advice? You need to introduce it to 15,000 CIOs in the next 4 weeks? You know, it's hard, right? And what if they don't deliver? What are you going to do then? What? They give you the list of names in the contract? Then their assets are gone, right? I mean, if they give you the name of a Mr. So-and-so from so-and-so and Mr. So-and-so from so-and-so, what are you going to do? You're going to make a copy of these names. You're going to say, thank you for that. We're going to take another investor, and you just call them. You know what I mean? They can't disclose that. It is not resolvable. These things cannot be resolved, okay? You can only get some trust by calling others and ask them whether it's true. And you better not just call the ones that they have connected you with, okay? Because these guys are going to talk only the good is reasonable. Sorry? Yeah. That's the issue. We were not ready for growth. We were stalling. That is why we had to take a second liner as an investor, okay? The second time, when we really got the big money, which is going to come in 5 minutes, we were ready for growth, okay? And I'm going to answer the question then, okay? So we took these guys on, 2012. And that was a funny experience, actually, when I decided to take the money on. I was sitting in this cafe, which is Landmann, you know that, right? And in Landmann, some they call themselves experts in IT, sit there and talk, okay? And I was literally sitting here, right? And the competition was sitting here, and they didn't notice that I've come in there, okay? And I was sitting here and drinking my coffee. I'm not looking as old as this guy, do I? Oof, some more years. And they were sitting here, and you know, I heard them talk. And these guys say, "Jetzt nehmen uns den Platz, die Firma weg." That's me. That's my last name, right? Meaning, Platz has been forced to give up on Tricentis. And Yeah, poor him, right? Okay. So that is the attitude of Austrians, okay? You have an investor coming in, pumping some money in, he's about to die now. That is the only reaction, okay? So these guys are not telling that story anymore. That has changed. So we got them in, and then we did a fundamental thing which was very, very useful. We decided to take on a US CEO. And that was the best decision we could take, because we were coached, brutally coached, to change our messaging into the US. We got the brutal feedback firsthand that we are messaging wrong and what we're doing wrong, and through 2 years we succeeded in changing that, okay? And we relaunched the US. We opened some additional businesses like India here, and then all of a sudden growth came back. So we had another flat year. In 2014 it started to kick on. Then we made a 41% growth, a 49% growth. In 2017 we had a great further growth, which I'm going to share in a sec. But with these two numbers, 41 and 49%, we were able to attract a big investment, like 165 million US dollars from a New York investor, okay? A US company, Inside Ventures. And that money is super useful, because with that money we can fuel the growth further. We can invest in sales and we can invest in R&D as you would expect it, and pump it further. So 2017 was 64% growth. 2018 would shoot out here because that was 69% growth from the last year. So we made it north of 100 million in last year. Yeah, that is fantastic. Wouldn't have been possible without that cash infusion. No chance at all, okay? And these guys kept the promise. They delivered a network and they delivered advice. The advice is sometimes brutal, because what these guys do, they would have patterns about all their portfolio companies telling you whether you are in a range of sanity or in a range of waste. And then they tell you, you should look into this number. I think you're spending too much here, or you should pump more money in here. And even without knowing the business exactly, this is a very, very useful information. It helps a lot. So, and this is we are now as Tricentis. I got to tell you this very, very briefly, this story. Tricentis, when we started with, as a product company, we were already 25 people. I mentioned before we had been a services company, and then we went into a product company. And we had to change the name, because the name former was Triton, which is a Greek god, but there are so many Triton things out there. It was not unique, and there were some other topics. So we had to change the name. And actually we did a little contest in our staff, and asked everybody, please provide a name. Come up with an idea. It should be a name which is a URL that is not taken, obviously. It should be pronounceable. Everybody should be able to pronounce the name immediately when you read it. That was the technical requirement. It should be simple. That was it, okay? And we had 3 recommendations that we took into a finals, and at the finals everybody had to defend the proposal and come up, what is the story behind the name, okay? The second one was QA Raptor, was some dinosaur story. Not bad, huh? But a bit aggressive maybe. And Tricentis was the other proposal, and the story of Tricentis is the following. Tricentis means 300 in Latin, as some of you may know, okay? And there has been this movie out there, 300. Who has seen that movie? Yeah, I mean, it's completely stupid, right? Who said leather? Yeah, nah, you're right. It's brain dead, kind of. But there is some story behind it, and the story is that there's this Xerxes, if you remember. Xerxes coming in and trying to invade Greece at the Thermophiles, and with a huge army, 10,000 people coming in and trying to get through the Thermophiles into Athens. However, somebody manages to bring Sparta into the play, because Athens is not ready for war. They're just talking about philosophy but not fighting. And with 300 fighters, the Spartans come up, and they are able to keep Xerxes out for 3 days. And Meanwhile, the Athens troops would be able to form, and Xerxes would never invade Europe, okay? So Persia would never invade Europe. That is, what is the analogy? The analogy is we wanted to become 300 people once. That was our goal. And we wanted to beat the huge incumbent. We had a huge incumbent in software test automation that was HP, or back then it was Mercury, then it was called HP, now it's called Micro Focus, who is actually vanishing today, beaten by us. So we managed to become the new leader, and today we are 700 people, so we got to find another name. So that is the story about this. And actually the story was pretty inspiring to people. Out of these 25, half of them are still with us. That is a good number, 10 years. Okay, so here is where we are today. That is us, Tricentis, in this leader quadrant. And that has been our journey. Actually, I think we should be up here. Something went wrong. There's others, but we're going to change that next year. This is the most important. Gartner has 75% market share. With the others, we are also in the leader quadrant, or whatever they call leader wave. They have different names for that. It is like AAA by all of them. We are the only ones to have that, which makes us proud. And here is the great thing that happened last year, and that is my final statement before the hour is over. At the end of last year, we have been called a unicorn, meaning we are supposed to have a valuation of $1 billion. So people think that we are worth a lot of money. And yeah, that's something that excites me. So to sum it up, love in 2 flavors. Your customers, not your product, okay? Your customers. It's not about the ideas, it's about execution. Love your team and be generous. And don't be at odds what these guys earn, okay? Investors take a huge risk. Don't be at odds, don't be greedy. Think about what you can gain and find out when the time is ready. Thank you. So I was supposed to take questions if there are any.
I haven't been there from the beginning, but can you tell me more about the product? You said you made test software. Do you use the software as a service? Do you use Docker and Kubernetes? Or?
What are these questions, man? You want a sales pitch? I can tell you, do we use Docker and Kubernetes? Of course. Is there any modern software development that does not use Docker and Kubernetes? Okay? Okay, yeah, that's true. You can use other stuff. So, but what are you aiming for with the question? Is it just interest? Okay. Okay, yes, we do have, I would say, the most agile and modern development that you're probably going to find out there somewhere. I would say so. Yeah. What does do we use software as a service? Not really. Not really. We do not provide Tosca as a service yet. That is the name of our product. The reason is pretty simple. There is no demand. And now you might counter and say, yeah, well, I would only do this as a software as a service. I would agree. But you know how many dollars I'm going to get out of your pocket? Probably 2 or 3, you know? The thing is, you cannot succeed. You have two ways to succeed. One is a huge number of people buying your stuff for a few dollars. Or the other one, have a few who pay huge dollars. Okay? What we are facing right now is at times where the huge number is not inclined to pay any money at all. They are all in open source, and there is something what we call a $0 threshold. It's super hard to overcome that. We see a lot of companies out there who have a lot of people dealing with their stuff, but not earning money. I mean, they get to like 3 million, 4 million, then that's it. Because they can't charge more than $9 a year or so, okay, you know? And that is super hard. I mean, then you're not gonna make a lot of money. You're not gonna be able to grow your business substantially. At a certain point of time, you're just gonna plateau. You're gonna saturate, that's it. If you really want to make a lot of money and grow your business to become a leader, you will have to either have the largest community on earth or You want to have enterprise customers. Enterprise customers are going to give you a lot of money if you do a right job. So we have taken the fundamental decision to go after the enterprise, because this is where the money is, okay? And now you may accuse me right away and say, look at this bastard down there, he talks only about money, right? Where is the ideal? Why this idealism? Where is it gone? Look at him, right? 20 years in business, doesn't think about anything but money. You know why? Because otherwise you're going to die. It's super painful when you're waking up and you don't know how to pay your bills, believe me. It's a super painful experience. All your idealism is going to be gone very, very quickly. Sorry for being so blunt. Any others? That's a fantastic question. I really appreciate that question because it was hard. It was hard. At a certain point of time, you gotta ask yourself where your strengths are, what you can do very good, but the way, so it was very hard to give up control, I gotta admit that. But the way I made peace with this was actually, this guy was actually working for me. I mean, because with him, we drove the value significantly. And I would have never got the extent of success without him. He was basically working for me. I'm still owning way more stock than this guy does, right? He is working for me, okay? And it's kind of funny, right? Because he is working for me, on the other hand, he is setting direction. I report into the CEO. But actually, we found a very, very a peer relationship. It's very much like a partnership. And I can only encourage you guys, ask yourself whether you are the right ones in the right place. And if not, take on a CEO who has done it before. This guy was very, very successful before in the Silicon Valley. You have to swallow your own pride. And you're going to shine even brighter. The toughest time was when we had to do some layoffs. We had to shrink the business. We were spending too much money. That happened actually when the second year of being flat. Here in the mid of 2013, 2014. That is very painful. When you got to stand out there and say, we fucked it up. The only thing we can survive is we have to lay off people. But what was very encouraging was that basically everybody understood it. And it was, and people are, there is a level where they're honest and there's a level where they're not honest, okay? When they stand, when they are amongst a big group, okay? Everybody's gonna say, oh, these layoffs, oh, so painful. Oh, and I'm so depressed and blah. And then you hear them talking one to another, okay, on the balcony, and they say, you know what, it was more than due that this guy has left us. And I'm glad that we now get rid of the bad ones. So that is also something I learned. The truth has always several layers with your staff. They're actually accepting more than you would expect if they just feel that it's honest. What you say, then it's okay. Yes, please. Yes. Okay, not everybody has shares. We tried to take as many on as possible. At a certain starting with a certain level, everybody gets shares. So I would say half of the people have shares. We started with the program actually here for the very, very inner circle, and they got a pretty big chunk. So with the 165 mil, they earned a lot of money. So we started here. but only but here we did not spread it out in a like to a lot of people. This was actually the spirit brought to us then by our CEO. That was one of his recommendations. Make it broader. Make it, and there was a good decision. Make it broader. That happened actually here. Okay. Sure. Let me know. If you can deal with the blunt truth. I'm too old to lie. Okay.
A question in a similar direction. There is the view that equity for employees might not be as great as it seems for the employee because it's difficult to get to a liquidity event, expenses are low, you don't actually get that much, investors get preferential treatment and all those things. What's your opinion on? Did your employees have the chance to sell any of the stock already? Or is it all staged?
No. Is the ones that have been early on got a liquidation when we a partial liquidation of their stock when we did the second big investment. That was a decent amount of money, believe me. Okay, so then the others will have to wait for the next. That's how it is. Right? Okay, but the way you need to look at it is, the way we structured it, they didn't have to buy it. We just gave it to them. Okay, it was additional thing, additional value. They didn't have to buy it.
Sure, you can see it as a lottery ticket or something like that, right? Or it's not.
A lottery is 1 to 8.6 million, right? You know that. When you go for the lottery win, it's 1 divided by 8.6 mil. It's the probability is a bit higher when you do this than a lottery.
Yeah, but still single-digit percent.
To succeed?
Yeah.
Well, when you start with it, it's 7%. When you are a company with 100 million revenue and 700 people, you got to really screw it up. You know? Yeah, that's the thing, right? At a certain point of time, when you have enough momentum, it becomes more and more secure. But on the other hand, then you can't gain that much. Right? It's like with a bank. But I would never call it. I think it's very attractive when you have it set up right with the preferences that you mentioned. Okay, the preferences from investors, the value can be dramatically reduced. But I can say we do not have a single preference that we granted our investor. The second time with these numbers, we were in a position of strength. The first time we had to give a liquidation preference away. That was painful. When you go for this, try to avoid liquidation preferences. You're going to very likely have to give them a single liquidation preference. Look it up what it is. It's going to take too much time to explain that now. But you're very likely going to have to provide that. But never you're going to accept the double liq pref. Never. We had investors asking for that. This is actually unethical, I think. I would never go for that. Did this answer the question somehow?
I mean, it can work out, it does not always work out. There
Sure.
have been cases where companies IPO'd and it was not a big payday for employees.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But
It can also work out.
no, but usually at least they don't lose any money, right? I mean, it is always an added value. The added value can be zero also. That's true. But
No, but some small companies want it to work for equity only, and that's
you're never going to accept that. If an investor asks you to work for equity only, they will come and say, you know what? When Steve Jobs went back into business, after he had been fired, he was working for $1 a day. And I expect the same attitude from you, okay? Then you should say, and I expect the same attitude from you. I want you to work for $1 a day. And you're going to explain that to your freaking family, okay? So never you're going to accept that. Never. If they're not willing to pay you a good salary, you have to go out of your business. I'm serious. You never accept that. You also never accept any private liabilities. No chance. You're not going to give your house. You're not going to give your whatever. You're not going to give your savings. Never. Too much risk. And they're going to ask for that. Their answer is no. Yes?
when you chose the CEO, how did you make sure that he was
a series of hearings from several dimensions. Back then, we actually needed somebody who had an experience in a lot of areas. He needed to have some basic experience in sales, some basic experience in marketing, some basic experience in product strategy, everywhere, right? I mean, we were needing experience everywhere. So, so we had hearings in all these dimensions, and he actually did a pretty good job. He was standing down there on the flip chart and drawing stuff, and I thought to myself, I think it's going to work out. And he is an Indian guy. His name is Sandeep Yori. He could even speak proper English, meaning without an accent that is very hard to digest. You know, Indian accents can be very hard to understand, and that would have been a huge burden in Austria, right? All of a sudden, there's only 3 people who understand. I'm sorry. You know that, huh? It's true, eh? So when you have 300 people in Austria, I mean, back then we were 120. You want to make sure that these people understand what this guy's saying, right? Even when they can talk English. So he had just a decent accent. That was okay. Yes.
Simple question. At what point did this turn into a company? I mean, it was a project at first.
No, it was a services company. We were delivering services on software QA. And found out that the tooling was not appropriate.
Okay, so you just
Start.
started with a group of people. At what point does this turn into a company? When you start working on something?
It's a good question. I think it is a company as soon as you pay your bills, right? It is a company when you are alone. It's also a company. But
when I have to set up a company, I have to do the paperwork and start on everything, and I might want to have prepared something before that, before I start doing paperwork with the government and everything. And
I would recommend to start a company when you already know that you gonna have employees, huh? Otherwise, why should you? Or like a GmbH or something. Depends on what you're up to. But I can give you an explicit number, like 17 people were no company and 18 we were one. That's not, yeah. Yeah.
Was it difficult to take on US money? Did you have to switch from a GmbH to something else?
No. We still at GmbH.
Interesting. I've heard other companies having trouble in going Delaware company and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we do have two subsidiaries actually in the US, Delaware. You got that, and one is to bundle all the license revenue. One is to bundle the services. So we do have two legal bodies in the US, but these legal bodies are owned by Tricentis GmbH. What these guys are always up to is to maximize their profits when they exit. So they always want to have some tax structure set up that is going to minimize their income tax. And as you know, there are countries in Europe that let you do a pretty good job in minimizing your taxes. Luxembourg, Cyprus. So you're going to very, very likely find not a direct investment of an investor, but a vehicle that he has in one of those countries going so that they can get rid of the income tax. Is that a nice thing? Nope. Thanks, Mr. Juncker, right? But you as an employee are going to pay 50% income tax, huh, for working. But that's a different topic.
you earlier said that you studied physics but never did anything related with physics. Would you do it again? Would you study again physics as you do? And why did you?
That's a very good question. Maybe I would do mathematics instead, which is not that far away. Right? Now, what I really learned from physics is simplification and estimates. So in physics, physics is not exact, as you know. Maths is exact, but physics is always more or less. Okay, it's about 1. between 0.95 and 105, it's 1. Okay, as simple as that. And you understand very quickly. Okay, what are the influencing factors to some numbers? What is it? Okay, if this becomes bigger, does it have an influence or not? I think you get a very good picture about which dimensions and which levers affect the result. That is something that you really learn in physics, I think. To me, the biggest advantage or the biggest skill I've acquired in university was actually Excel. From a skill perspective, I was developing 8 years hardcore. I don't use that anymore, but Excel. There's no business without Excel, and it's so powerful, right? I mean, and this is a core differentiator. If you can be fast in Excel, believe me, people are gonna love that. Yeah, it's boring, I know.
What's your market share in your relevant market?
I'm sorry?
What's your market share in your relevant market? Because you talked about the Olympics after 10 years.
That's a very good question. I think we would need to distinguish between commercial and open source software here. Software test automation, you see a lot of open source going, and I would say that open source, you know, you're all aware of Selenium, APM, all these things, right? Aren't you? I would say they have the biggest chunk of users. When you now define market share in terms of commercial software, I would say we're about 30% of commercial software test automation software, which is not the winner takes it all yet. We got to be aware. So the race is on. I personally believe that we're going to have like 2 to 3 years of good economic climate going now in front of us, even though Brexit is going to come, but that's not going to destroy it. Like 2 to 3 years, but then we're going to face a recession. There is a lot of evidence to that. So we basically have another 2 to 3 years to really get it going. We want to be, within the next 2 to 3 years, we want to be sole number one. The others that you have seen in this magic quadrant, they got to be substantially behind. So we are not there yet. We got to at least double, at least, within the next 2 years.
How does competition look like? So how many companies are out there that at the moment are the same size? What's your strategy?
Same size, there is only one comparable size. Others, smallest, there's a ton. There's a lot, really, and I can't even tell you how many because they're popping up. But and that is also something you get with money. You're able to acquire other companies. Okay, when you get a lot of money going, you can swallow them. And it's like a center of gravity, right? At a certain point of time, gravity sucks it in. You got to be big enough to suck them in.
Two questions, actually, more sales related. So you were there at the very beginning for a couple of years, developed your products. How was your transition to become more sales oriented or actually a sales guy? Because I suppose CEOs have to be salespeople at some point in their life. And I mean, most people here probably are more product guys, and when they want to become more successful, they have to be more sales related.
Yes.
Second part of the question, what's the ratio right now in terms of employees? How many are in sales? How many are actually developers? How many are, I don't know, admin?
Okay. So, what was the first one?
First question was, how was it for you to transition from development to sales, and what kind of advice can you give us?
I personally loved it. I personally loved it. I was selling this thing before on my own, and I had some success. I mean, before in 2007, before I took Mr. Fuchsberger on, we already had $1 million contract with a German company. I loved sales always. So from a mindset, for me, it was not a big transition. For your R&D, it perhaps is, okay? But you got to live with sales. Sales are different, right? So they're loud and they're pushy and they're always the goods and they're always underpaid. At least they feel underpaid, and all that stuff. And sorry. Yes. So always, but I mean, without sales, you're not going to make it. And one of our sales guys always said, everybody's in sales in the company. Everybody's in sales. I mean, from a spirit, you should have that attitude that everybody is in sales, a bit, at least. So, and what was the other one? The ratio. The ratio, we have about 18% in sales and marketing regarding staff. We have 30% in R&D. We have 25% in services. We need to still deliver a lot of services because we have to help our customers. We do have 70 in G&A. G&A meaning HR, legal, all that stuff. Yeah, so that's about the size. If it comes to money, sales is by far the most expensive thing.
Taking on investors also means losing some control. Is this something you had a look at before and some was set up, or how?
Somebody who has actually sold this company very successfully told me once, when I talked to him whether we should do this or not, I take an investor on. He is actually with UC4 Atomic. I don't know if you're aware of this company. It's also an Austrian company. Has been sold for 600 mil. You know that company, Atomic? Never heard? Jeez. Okay, his name is Franz Beranek. He's the founder, and he gave me an audience, which was great before we did this. And I asked him, and he said, you know, these investors are ugly cheerleaders. And I said, what do you mean by this, ugly cheerleaders? He says, well, if you do have your numbers, they're going to stand there cheering, but they don't look as good as cheerleaders. And if you don't make your numbers, they're really ugly. So, and that's how it is. As long as you make your numbers, everything is fine. They're gonna basically let you alone, and you're gonna, because they trust in you, right? You can do whatever you want as long as you make your numbers. But they are very bimodal, like a heaviside function, 0, 1, right? If you don't do it, things become nasty. Then they interfere. Fortunately, we haven't been in that position. We always made our numbers. But I'm not naive. I'm fully aware. If we don't make our numbers, they're going to step in. And then you really lose control. As long as you succeed, you have all control. If you don't succeed, they're in.
Why are you more successful than the competition? Do you have techniques, or are you just focusing on the result?
You're smarter. Nah, I don't know. I don't know what nah. It's a good question. I mean, I could give you the USPs now, but I think that's not what you're looking for. Why are we more successful? So at a certain point of time, companies are their strongest enemies themselves. You are your fiercest enemy because you're getting fat, and you're taking a lot of weight on, and you don't exercise anymore, right? So that is the biggest threat. And when you're not willing to hear the voices of the market and stuff, or you as a leader become an asshole, these are really things that hurt. I've seen this all, right? One of our biggest competitors in the past, Worksoft, for instance, I don't know if you're aware of this company, has been bought now for 75 mil. They were at the same size when we started, when we were 4 years ago. Same size 4 years ago. And they did some very nasty management decisions. They screwed their employees, and all of a sudden they're gone. And the market is very quick. So you screw it up 2 years, 3 years, thank you, sir. That's it. So we did not make, at a certain point of time, you should not make a lot of mistakes anymore. I think we haven't made too many mistakes. But I hope I can tell this in a few years from now also. I don't know, simply. Don't screw your employees. If you start screwing your employees, you're going to be down.
What is your approach to stay innovative besides requiring
That is a good thing. You can take some fresh blood infusion, right? Like the guys from Seefeld. That helps. But once again, that is I have been in a CIO innovation roundtable on the weekend. We have these innovation roundtables where we take CIOs from big companies and then we would exchange on innovation and stuff. And there was this lady telling that she has now come up with this huge innovation program and she would train her employees to be more innovative. And I thought to myself, how stupid is that? I mean, come on. There is no lack of innovative potential. When we do a hackathon, we do hackathons every once in a while. We get hundreds of innovative ideas. They are fantastic. The problem is that a lot of company cultures kill the innovation. They can't get the innovation going, and the execution of the innovation capabilities is so poor. Innovation is in each and everyone's brain here. We just need to let it loose. If we get everybody thinks about the greatness of ideas. That's bullshit. Let each of you, if I give you an hour time and ask you what should we do better, I give you my product. Tomorrow I'm going to call you, okay? Give you 2 hours time. You're going to shoot me a blast of innovation. A blast, each and every one. Innovation is not the hard thing. The hard thing is to get it going, to find out what is more relevant than the others. I know you are all fond of ideas and Mr. Elon Musk is your hero, but forget it. It's about execution. I know you didn't want to hear that, huh? Sorry.
Do you think it's better for your company or potentially other companies to stay focused on the software testing or to expand more through the value chain such as release management and integration?
So in general, my advice will always be focus, 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 focus. Focus, 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 focus. If you read this book, Crossing the Chasm, focus. Have a specific focus and then go through. I would say it's not fully true in where we are today. In the software test automation space, what we see today is we see a convergence of automation happening. And there is a big mega trend out there which is gaining huge momentum now, which is called RPA. You have heard of that, right? Robotic process automation. And I believe that we're going to see a convergence of automation. We will not be successful just with software test automation from an automation perspective. So we will need to be a bit broader there. But that is an exception. Usually you want to be focused, focus, focus. Okay? Yes?
How early did you focus on building a culture in your company?
Somebody told me lately, what was that? Management eats culture at breakfast, something like this. What was meant by this is you cannot build a culture. You cannot go out there and say, let's build a culture. First of all, it's all about your actions, not your words. You're familiar with that, right? And this is so true. You can have a shiny wallpaper and there you have the 5 principles of your company. We do have that actually. But believe me, it's completely useless. Completely useless, okay? It's how you live, and the fish always stinks from the head. You know that saying in Austria, right? In Deutsch. Der Fisch fängt immer am Kopf zum Stinken an, oder? You are aware of that saying. This is fully true. The culture is you. And if you implement the right culture in your company, all the others will follow. And you do not need to come up with some super spirit thing like, yeah, we are all, we We want to be innovative. We want to be acknowledging. We want to acknowledge customer success. We want to do this and this and this. Like, you know, these 5 things, they're all the same in all the companies. Really. This is not a differentiator. The differentiator is that you live it. The others talk about it, you live it. You cannot build a culture, you live it, and it comes from the top. It is you. You are the culture of your company. And they're going to see how you do, how you work, what you do. And they're going to do it. They're going to copy you. You don't know it. If you are the one to not empty the dishwasher because you think you're too good for that shit, nobody's going to empty the dishwasher. This is where it starts. And usually this is where it ends, because not too many people empty the dishwasher. But you should draw some. If they don't empty the dishwasher, are they going to really stick to you? I'm not so sure. Okay?
How do you meet the people that you really need and want to get on board? I mean, you mentioned that investors will sometimes bring qualified for new risks that rise up when you grow, but other than that, is there a way where you meet people?
You have recruiters, right? I mean, there's classic measures. You need to be present, like in TU. If anybody wants to join us, please give me a call, even after today, right? Where you heard me be so blunt. So you want to generate brand awareness. You want to be present. People know you and they want to work for you, hopefully. And for the executives roles, you either know somebody, which is a huge benefit, or you want to have a recruiter going. But the classic measures, there is no secret sauce in that. Really not. And the investors are not going to put somebody on you as long as you succeed. If you fail, they're going to wipe you out. Yes? I personally would love to have an IPO. I personally would love that. I'm not sure whether we can make it, frankly, because I mean there's a big investor who plays a certain role in there. And as I said, and the way I look at the economic climate, this is a matter of 2.5 years. So we have crossed 100 mil. You got to be at 150 mil to talk about an IPO. So we are in a tremendous rush. And I simply don't know whether we're going to have enough time to do it before the next recession kicks in. And then it's going to wait again for several years, okay? I would love to have an IPO. I would love to ring the bell in NASDAQ. I've been there, I've seen the bell, because NASDAQ is a customer of ours. And they let me ring the bell, but they said, you know, it's far, okay? And it's pretty high up, actually. So you got to climb a little ladder, then you can ring the bell. But I would love to do that once. I am not sure whether we can make it. Let's see. But that is not a vision. The vision is not to go for an IPO. That's not the vision. In your vision, you better have the word custom in your vision. Actually, I don't like our vision because customer is not really there. But so we're going to redo this. You want to bring some value to your customers. That is your vision, whatever it is. Yeah, otherwise it's poor vision. At the beginning, there has been no vision. There was just this demand for something else, okay? Now we do have a vision, which is to make our customers' life easier on software testing. Okay, so the number of mobile phones out here is increasing. I think we're getting to an end, huh? Thank you.